we'll fight until the end.
The Twilight Saga, once thought to have reached its final chapter with Breaking Dawn Part 2, is poised for an unexpected yet highly anticipated return with a sixth installment, reigniting the global obsession with the supernatural love triangle that defined a generation. As whispers of the Twilight Saga 6 began to circulate, fans old and new found themselves captivated by the possibility of revisiting the atmospheric town of Forks, Washington, and reuniting with beloved characters like Bella Swan, Edward Cullen, and Jacob Black. While the previous films offered a sense of closure, especially with Bella's transformation into a vampire and the peaceful resolution between vampires and werewolves, the immense popularity and enduring cultural resonance of the series created an inevitable pull for a continuation, one that dives deeper into the lives altered by the events of the original saga. The new film doesn't merely aim to recycle familiar tropes, but rather seeks to evolve the narrative into fresh territory, exploring the consequences of immortality, the complexity of legacy, and the weight of supernatural politics in a modern world still adjusting to the changes wrought by the events of the previous films. This sixth chapter is not just an extension of the story. It is a reawakening of the Twilight mythology with a more mature, introspective tone. Years have passed since Renesmee Cullen, the half-vampire, half-human daughter of Edward and Bella, was introduced as a miraculous being caught between two worlds. Now, she is at the heart of the story, a young woman navigating the intricate challenges of her hybrid identity, caught between the expectations of her family and the uncertain path that lies ahead. Jacob Black, once her protector, now plays a more complex role as both a guardian and someone dealing with his own aging process, a stark contrast to the eternal youth of the Cullens. The film introduces this new dynamic as central to the ongoing tension, questioning whether the imprinting bond is fate or a chain that must be broken to allow true freedom. Meanwhile, the Volturi, the ancient vampire coven that once threatened the Cullens, have been silent, but far from dormant. Their shadow looms heavily, and rumors of internal divisions and a possible resurgence bring a fresh wave of danger and intrigue that promises to elevate the stakes far beyond any battle fought in the past. In crafting the narrative for the Twilight Saga 6, the creative team has taken a bold step by expanding the universe rather than simply revisiting it. The tone is more reflective, allowing space for characters to grapple with the philosophical implications of their choices. Bella, now fully accustomed to her vampire life, reflects on the human experiences she left behind and the nature of eternity, while Edward, ever brooding, wrestles with the fear of losing Renesmee to a future he cannot control. Their bond remains strong, but parenthood has added a new layer of vulnerability, especially as Renesmee begins to assert her independence and question her origins. Her journey becomes the emotional centerpiece of the film, as she seeks out others like her, hybrid beings who live hidden lives across the world. These encounters not only broaden the scope of the Twilight world, but also challenge long-standing beliefs about what it means to belong. This installment carefully weaves together themes of identity, heritage, and rebellion, positioning Renesmee as a symbol of a new era that could redefine the supernatural order. The visual aesthetic of the Twilight Saga 6 is a deliberate evolution of the moody, mist-laden style that characterized the original films. While the familiar forests of Forks still play a key role, the film ventures into new locales, ancient European ruins, sun-drenched deserts, and hidden enclaves where rogue vampires and hybrids live in secret. This global expansion reflects the film's ambition to not just revisit old ground, but to elevate the mythology to a broader, more diverse canvas. Cinematographically, the filmmakers employ a mix of grounded realism and ethereal, dreamlike sequences to mirror the dual nature of Renesmee's experience, torn between humanity and vampirism, choice and destiny. The soundtrack, too, follows this maturation, blending atmospheric compositions with emotionally resonant indie tracks that echo the franchise's signature style while embracing a new generation of musical voices. Everything about this installment signals a deeper, richer experience that respects its roots while daring to forge a bold new path forward. Returning to the franchise are many of the original cast members, each bringing with them a weight of legacy and emotional continuity. Kristen Stewart reprises her role as Bella, with a quiet strength and maternal grace that adds depth to her character. Robert Pattinson returns as Edward, his performance marked by an introspective melancholy that mirrors the internal conflict of a father watching his daughter forge her own way. Taylor Lautner steps back into the role of Jacob, his portrayal now layered with the maturity of time and the gravity of protecting a bond that defies explanation. Yet, the film also introduces a new ensemble of characters, especially those from Renesmee's journey across the globe. These include other hybrids, each with unique abilities and perspectives, as well as humans and vampires caught in the crossfire of a world that is not as hidden as it once was. These new faces add both tension and richness to the story, challenging the established norms and forcing the older generation to confront truths they once believed unshakable. A particularly compelling subplot revolves around the reemergence of a schism within the Volturi. With Aro's grip weakening and ambitious new leaders rising from within their ranks, the stability of the vampire world teeters on the edge. This internal conflict spills into the broader narrative as factions vie for control, using hybrids like Renesmee as symbols of either evolution or abomination. The Cullens find themselves once again in a position where neutrality is impossible, drawn into a conflict that could shatter the fragile peace they fought so hard to secure. However, unlike the previous films, this battle is not one of brute force but of ideology, diplomacy, and strategic alliances. The narrative deftly explores the idea of power and tradition versus change and adaptation, making the central conflict one of identity and vision for the future of the supernatural world. This thematic complexity offers fans a more cerebral and emotionally resonant experience, while still delivering the suspense and high-stakes drama that define the series. One of the most striking aspects of the Twilight Saga 6 is its treatment of love and connection, no longer viewed through the lens of impulsive teenage desire, but rather examined as enduring, evolving, and often painful. The love between Edward and Bella, while still central, is portrayed with a realism that acknowledges the strain of time, fear, and differing views on how best to guide Renesmee. Similarly, Jacob's internal struggle with his imprinting on Renesmee is explored with nuance, questioning whether such a bond is fair to either of them. Renesmee herself is portrayed not as a passive recipient of fate, but as a fiercely intelligent and emotionally complex individual who challenges the very concept of imprinting, demanding autonomy over her own choices. Her arc, defined by defiance and self-discovery, becomes a mirror for the audience, reflecting the universal journey of growing up and stepping out from the shadows of one's parents. As the film moves toward its climax, the threads of various plot lines converge in a tense and emotional crescendo. The Volturi's internal collapse reaches a breaking point, prompting an emergency gathering of covens from across the world. In this high-stakes environment, Renesmee stands as both a target and a beacon of hope, her very existence forcing ancient traditions to be questioned and potentially rewritten. The final confrontation is not a simple battle, but a trial of values, where the future of supernatural society hinges on whether they will embrace the next generation or destroy it out of fear. In these moments, the characters are stripped bare, revealing their deepest fears and hopes. Bella's fierce maternal love, Edward's quiet desperation, Jacob's unwavering loyalty, and Renesmee's unbreakable will all collide in a series of emotional and philosophical reckonings that redefine what it means to be part of this world. The Twilight Saga 6 does not merely return to the past, it redefines the future. With its richer character development, expansive world-building, and emotionally resonant themes, it represents a bold evolution of a beloved franchise. Rather than relying on nostalgia alone, it carves a new path that honors the original while inviting a new generation of fans to find their place within its universe. Whether you're a longtime devotee or a curious newcomer, this film promises a journey that is as thought-provoking as it is thrilling, proving that some stories are not meant to end. They are meant to grow. And as the final scenes unfold, with a mix of closure and possibility, one thing becomes clear. The saga continues not because it must, but because it still has something vital to say about love, family, identity, and the eternal question of where we truly belong.